Good morning and good afternoon. One of the teachings that I have found a little difficult in the early years, and really probably for quite a while in my practice, is the teaching to see everything as a dream. And last week we were looking at some of the Lojong slogans in the Lojong practice, the Tibetan practice on compassion, and we were looking at the first point is resolve to begin, and the first slogan was practice in the preliminaries or train in the preliminaries. And then the second point is the cultivation of compassion. And the first slogan that goes with the cultivation of compassion is treat everything as a dream. And it's interesting to wonder why this teaching of treat everything as a dream is placed as the first contemplation in the cultivation of compassion. Why would that be? They don't obviously seem to be related, just at a first glance. And when I first heard teachings of treat all dharmas as dreams or see everything as a dream, I felt a resistance to it, because it even though I trusted my teachers and I trusted the teachings, my trust wasn't deep enough, because I found myself having this fear, but if I see everything as a dream, I'm just not going to care very much. I'm not going to care enough. I'm going to sort of drift along going, oh, well, what does it matter? A war here, a war there, a problem here, a problem there. I'll just drift through it all and sort of ignore it. Kind of more like it's sort of dissociated, what we'd say in psychology, a dissociated state, a kind of not relating to things. And I could tell that this was my own fear, and so that motivated me to go, okay, so what is this teaching about? It must be about, it can't be about that. It can't be about you won't suffer if you don't care about things. That can't be what the teaching is. That wouldn't make sense. There's no compassion in that. And particularly seeing this teaching is linked with the development of compassion, then there's got to be a way of understanding what is this teaching about. See everything as a dream. But over the years, this has turned out, in my experience, to be an incredibly beneficial teaching for me. And I'm sure as it is for many, many practitioners. Because if we have a tendency towards, say, nervousness, anxiety, which would be my tendency, that's my karmic history, or for someone who has a tendency towards anger or arrogance, or even sort of depressive outlook, all of those assume that the thing you're having an emotional reaction to is very real and concrete and definite. That's why you're anxious about it, or you're angry at it, or you feel superior to it or inferior to it. And it's also taught that to really cultivate compassion, we have to understand, who am I that is feeling and acting in a compassionate way, and who is the other to whom I am having feelings of care. We need to examine that closely, otherwise we can fall into a trap of being kind of quasi-compassionate, usually translate as being either selectively compassionate, selectively caring, not all inclusive, or a kind of helping that has got a patronizing component to it. So we don't want to be like that. So we have to understand, who am I and who are they? So some of the questions that we can ask in terms of looking at this teaching, see everything as a dream, is to ask and to contemplate, like closely and gently contemplate, who am I? Patiently re-examine over and over and over, who am I? Who am I really? And it doesn't take very long to get past the superficial sense of, well, I am whatever our name is. It doesn't take very long to see how those sorts of explanations are very limited and don't really stand up to close scrutiny. So who am I? And who are you? Who are you? Who is the one that I have an idea of wanting to be beneficial toward? Who are you? And what is this? What is this actually? What is this experience that I'm in? Where are the boundaries of this experience? Where's the beginning and the end of it? Where is its location? And this thought that I'm having, when did this thought start? Where did this thought come from? How can I verify the content of the thought as being accurate? If we really patiently, in our Zazen practice, just ask these very core questions and just rest with them. Don't try to answer them exactly, just rest with them and see that there isn't a clear, easy answer. Then we start to sort of open up to really seeing how mysterious it all is. And when we see how mysterious it all is, how we can't find the beginning or the end of anything, we can't find the sides, the edges of anything, we can't know quite how something got to be here and where it's going, then we can begin to get this feeling of the dreamlike quality of reality and of our experience. And contrary to the fear that I had early in my practice and that people do have, it doesn't result actually in a detachment. When really felt and understood deeply, it results in this beautiful sense of how fragile and precious everything is, because it can't be grasped. It's just moving past. Everything's just changing constantly. And we also see how painful it is for so many people who haven't had the opportunity to really examine themselves closely. How painful it is for them that they believe their own thoughts as actual accurate things, and they believe that person actually is that person, or that thing is that thing, or that event is that event. How much suffering that causes for people. So it opens us up to greater compassion and a real sense of tenderness and care towards everything. And it also, this is the part that I found very helpful for myself, it's actually a great relief, because then when things go wrong, we don't hook onto the wrongness, the upsetness of them as much, like even in very tiny ways. Like today when I came in here to set up the altar, the stand for the large candle wasn't there. You can actually just it's a stand that we have for our large candle, and there's a traditional way in which altars are set up, and the Buddha candle is supposed to be kind of on a higher stand or on a more substantial stand. And it wasn't there. And I was kind of like, we packed everything up, we put it in our special box, the box gets put away. Where in the world could the stand be? Like, it was just seemed very strange that the stand couldn't be there. And I looked all around the temple here, I went and looked in our storage room, I looked in little cupboards, couldn't find it anywhere. And I just went like, well, there you go. We just don't have it. And then just a little bit before Zazen started, I saw it. Someone had put it inside a glass bookshelf. We must have left it here and not packed it up. We must have. Even though it seems unlikely, that's what must have happened. So even a little thing like that, for myself actually, some years back, that would have been quite a panicky moment. It would have been like, oh my God, where's it gone? This doesn't look right. You know, some series of thoughts about that. Someone who had a tendency towards suspicion could have quickly jumped to some conclusion, like someone's stolen it. People jump to those conclusions incredibly fast. Someone's stolen our candle stand. I really think that's very possible. And someone could have that thought. But when we've kind of really contemplated everything as a dream, then we just can slow down a little bit when things go wrong, be a little more relaxed about it. We don't burn up as much energy, and therefore we can actually think more clearly. And often things just resolve themselves. And I think a good example of how a way we can recall this feeling that the relaxation that we get when we realise something is, when we really realise this dreamlike quality, is when actually in the morning when we wake up from a bad dream. All of us have had this experience where we've had a stressful dream and then we wake up and go, oh God, thank goodness it was only a dream. We all know that feeling. It was only a dream. You can't completely compare the dreams in nighttime to our experience during the day. But what we can see that when we're in a dream at nighttime, we're believing the dream when we're in the dream. I mean, we're having this experience in our dream and it's feeling extremely real in the dream. And then when we wake up, we have this relief if it was a stressful dream. And so we can learn from that experience that all of us have, that there is this dreamlike quality of our daytime as well. And we can relax a little more, even when things go very wrong. We can still relax a little more. See the transient nature of all experience. See the transient nature of our own thoughts. And just to share with you, because I like this teaching so much, I have actually been having this experience in the last few years when I'm having a dream at night time and it's a stressful dream, which usually for me is getting lost or being confused about something, not being able to figure out where to go, something like that. Or as I think often people have, just because of our bodies sort of trying to move or run and not being able to move or run properly. Now what actually happens most often is in the dream I say to myself, oh, you're just having a dream. And then I wake up, which is really, really nice, because then it never actually gets too terrible, because just from practicing, I guess, because dreams are always distorted, actually in the dream I seem to be able to, in the dream, go, this isn't right. This is a dream. You're dreaming. And then I wake up. So that's a little side bonus. If you contemplate this enough, you'll stop having bad dreams. Yeah. But I do think it takes a long time to absorb this teaching and to lose the fear that seeing the dreamlike quality of everything is not going to result in a detachment. I mean, it could if you misunderstood it. It could result in detachment, but that would actually just be another form of actually not seeing the dreamlike quality, because that would be some kind of rejection of the world. And maybe a way to work with this teaching a little more easily is to start off with the idea of, that we're all familiar with, that everything is in a state of change. That's sort of an easier entry point. Everything is in a state of change. What's happening now will be different in half an hour. What thought I'm having now or what feeling I'm having now will change fairly quickly. What opinions I have will shift over time, hopefully. Don't want to be too fixed in our opinions. Events will change. Difficult events will eventually sort of stop. Positive things will eventually go away. Everything is in a state of continual change. So that can be a helpful way to really let yourself contemplate this teaching of seeing everything as a dream. Nothing remains the same even for an instant. And therefore we don't need to get quite so hooked by it. And it reminds me of this story from from the early teachings around the Buddha's time, of the man who is a man in a village. I've told this story before, who has a horse, and then the horse runs away. And people in the village say, "Oh my God, what bad luck! That's so terrible. I'm so sorry that your horse has run away." And he's more relaxed about it and goes, "Oh well, we'll see." And then the horse finds 2 other wild horses and brings them back. So now he has 3 horses. And people say, "Oh, you're so lucky. Look at you. That's amazing. You're so lucky." And probably some people maybe even feel some jealousy. And he just goes, "Oh well, yeah, we'll see." And so his son decides to train those horses. They're wild horses, so they need to be broken in so they can, have a bridle and so on. And in the process of breaking in the horses, he falls off and breaks his leg, like quite badly. And again, the villagers say, "Oh my God, it's such bad luck, so terrible." And again, yeah, we'll see. And this is not as if he's not engaged in his life. Like this farmer, this man is engaged in his life. He's doing his life. He's not doing nothing. But he's not getting caught by all of these events as happens in our life all the time. Good things happen, bad things happen. Good things happen, bad things happen. It's just like that. That's just our life. So then the local army comes and says, "We need all the fit young men to go to war." And of course his son can't go because he has a broken leg. So all the other sons go, and they kind of know it's a pointless war and they're going to probably all get killed. And so again they say, "Oh, you are so fortunate that your son broke his leg and didn't have to go." So this can be helpful when we can see this constant movement in our lives. Because we have a body in this physical world, things are just going to be like this, always like this. We cannot get so hooked when things go well or when things go badly. And this is how this teaching of see all dharmas as dreams, this is how it works for us in a beneficial way. We are then free to actually be present to our experience, to this constant flux of the world, to see its fragility and its beauty. We're free to do that rather than be preoccupied with our fears and our opinions. But there is a teaching that also cautions us around this see all dharmas as dreams, and I'll just like to read a little bit from, which I was reading last week from Norman Fisher's Training in Compassion. So I just mentioned just a little bit ago, the first few slogans in the Lojong training is train in the preliminaries, see everything as a dream. And then the third one is examine the nature of awareness, which I won't go into just now, but actually what we were just talking about who am I, what are my thoughts, who are they, all of that, what is this? That is the way to examine the nature of awareness, is to look at that closely. And then the fourth, a slogan is don't get stuck on peace. And it is to act as a counterpoint to see everything as a dream. It's the counterpoint to that. It's the caution. I'm glad you like that. Okay. So I'm just going to read what it says on don't get stuck on peace. When you practice see everything as a dream, life gets rather dreamy and abstract, as you will have noticed if you have actually been working with them, or even just reading about this slogan. The practice is pleasant, but also may make you feel perhaps a little removed from your life. You begin to focus on the uncanny feeling of time passing, and time begins to feel strange and profound. And it begins to dawn on you that your usual sense of self is some kind of mental habit that might not have any actual basis. You notice how clunky and crude many of your self-thoughts actually are. If all of this is not disturbing to you, and especially if you are a Buddhist or a Buddhist-friendly person, you might be thinking, this is great. Everything is empty. Everything is a dream. Just like the slogan says, there isn't any person, is there really? There is just awareness itself. So I'm free of all my self-worries and I can enjoy life a lot more. What the slogan, don't get stuck on peace, is saying is that when you start thinking like that, you are caught all over again. You are mistaken. You have merely exchanged one set of confused concepts for another. This train of thought will not be sustainable. It will cause you trouble. The point of don't get stuck on peace is don't get excited about the empty, dreamlike nature of everything. Because now you have conceptualized it and made it into something, an idea. And soon that idea is going to trip you up. And forget about how great it is to be nobody, because that's just another excuse. It is too easy to make these slogans into belief systems. The important thing is to hold them lightly and don't think that you understand them. They are just devices. Take them with a grain of salt. They may not even be true at all. So I think that is a very good caution for those people who have a bit of a tendency to get a little dissociative and distant. But when we really understand it well, it brings us relief and relaxation and also a sense of care about the fragility. And things are precious because they're constantly disappearing. We can't hold on to anything. So it becomes more precious. This moment becomes more precious. All right. I'm going to just make it so I can see people online again. There we go. Would anyone like to comment or ask a question? Must have some thoughts about this. Rain?
I'm happy to exercise my function as icebreaker in chief and token extrovert. But I do have something in mind. I just wanted to wait to see if anyone else wanted to speak. I'm always a bit afraid of talking too much, since I often do. Um, and also, there's a whippersnipper in the background. Is that coming through? Okay, that's good. That's reassuring. I was thinking about this the other day, Nettie, about this everything's a dream. But actually, I wasn't thinking about it. I was noticing that everything had a dreamlike quality. But it didn't mean that it wasn't real. I mean, phenomena were arising as they always do, but there was a kind of shimmering that was also arising and a quality of reality that was much deeper than actually conventional reality. So I think I know these Lojong trainings. I've known them for a long time. I first encountered them, I think um, in about 2004 or five. So I for a while had them stuck on the back of my toilet door, which I think is a good place for them because you see them all the time. Um, so I've worked with this idea of labeling reality when I see it as it's just a dream, it's just a dream, it's just a dream. I mean, I've been in this habit from time to time for a long time. And what I've noticed is that um, initially it was a labeling practice of it's just a dream, it's just a dream. And I did get quite stuck in dissociating without knowing it and using my Dharma practice to avoid things, which I think is a tendency of those of us who have a contemplative streak. I think that's just one of the pitfalls, especially if you're not training closely with a teacher. Um, so as I've said before, I'm so happy you're here, Nettie. Like it makes such a difference to have someone like you giving Teisho once a week and to be having regular Doksan to guide us out of these pitfalls of dissociation that we may be mislabeling as it's just a dream. But I just wanted to report both that I have often sunk into this mistake of calling dissociation dreaming when it's actually just dissociation and not an encounter with reality at all, but with delusion. But also to report that in my experience, the experience of things being a dream is fundamentally has a quality of reality that is fundamentally much deeper than conventional reality. And to that extent, you actually can recognize quite easily that it's the dream that where it's the reality that's beyond the experience of that is connected with the experience of things actually just being a dream. So, yeah. So,
Thanks, Rain. Yeah, one thing I didn't really speak about at much length is to really look at our own thoughts and see the dreamlike quality of our thinking. Because we're thinking all the time, and we have a tendency to kind of believe our own thoughts about things and our own assumptions about things, our own, just our habit of mind, and just to loosen up a little bit. And also when we hear other people say things, often when someone says something, we often think we know what they said. But actually, we don't really know what anybody's saying. We only have an approximate idea of what somebody means when someone says something. Which is why so often in communication we have that experience. If you say something, the other person thinks you said something slightly different. You try to verify it and it still doesn't seem to work, and it just doesn't quite happen. So if we can kind of not be so sure about our own thoughts and not so sure that we understand what other people are saying, it just lightens up a bit. It's hard to explain it, but you feel it when the teaching starts integrating. You notice that there is just a softening in the way you relate to everything that people say. But that doesn't correspond to a lack of action. You can still be a compassionately active person. You're just not believing yourself the whole time. You're doing things, you're doing your best, but you're not rigid about it. You're just humbly doing your best, and you don't even know what you're doing. But you're doing your best. Anybody else?
Maybe I would like to say, I love how you make this so real, these talks, but they're always they're so real, they're fun, they're really relatable. So thank you. Thank you. And you make it sort of, yeah, it's not just very serious but it's, yeah, you make it, it's a fun twist to it as well. So thank you.
Were you able to hear that online? Nick was just saying that it's helpful when she can hear the teachings as kind of light-hearted and relatable and kind of fun, even if they're a kind of difficult topic, that makes it more helpful to be able to take them in. So,
You make them fun.
well,
You make
if
them.
I make them
You
fun,
Make us laugh.
so why do I do that? Because I actually have this very childish mother. Like, my mother is incredibly childlike. She's 89 and she's still incredibly childlike. And so it just comes from, where did she get it from? We don't know.
Thank you.
I don't know her history well enough to know where it came from her, but yeah. But thank you. I'm glad. That's good feedback for me. And yeah. Evgeny?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. It's this teaching is directly linked to the impermanency.
Yes.
So everything is impermanent, so it changes. And the middle way, so we don't hold to the whatever ideas, something thoughts too strongly. So this is some kind of like a first linkage here, and also it helps us to, when we don't hold it too seriously to the things or conceptions, whatever, it kind of helps us to open up as some little explorer in us, so things get more interesting. So it's always something to discover more than we think, or how things appear.
Can I paraphrase? I want to paraphrase you before I lose it all. So some of the things what Yevgeny was saying is, this is like contemplating impermanence. This is another way of talking about it. And that this is the middle way teachings of not getting caught too much one way or the other, like too dreamlike, too real and solid, not to get caught too much one way or the other. And that this also creates, I don't think you said curiosity, what did you say? Explore.
We open up as explorers.
Open up to explore more, and he was making this nice movement, like open up a little bit to
more fun again.
a bit more fun.
And,
Yeah.
It's endless, pretty
Yeah.
much. So
Endless,
it's more interesting.
Yeah. Everything becomes really
More
interesting
exciting.
and more exciting. That's right, because it's here and it's changed, and it's here and it's changing.
Yeah, so if we caught up with the too much peace, for example, that's not a good sign either. So it's kind of we think that we found the end of it, nothing to discover more. But it's another illusion, probably.
Yeah.
Never ending.
Yeah.
It's the never-ending quality that we're not going to kind of get somewhere and then it's done, because everything is in a constant state of flux. And that keeps it interesting, keeps us kind of alive, doesn't it? Yeah, live and curious. We're not going to get staid or cynical or
It's
bored.
More of it, something more.
Always more. Yeah. Yes, Russ.
I really liked your phrase, just humbly doing your best and really not even knowing what you're doing. The first half of my life, I sort of, at least intermittently, particularly after I had gained a certain number of marketable skills that the world clearly valued, I sort of thought I kind of knew what I was doing, at least a little bit. Certainly when I became a priest and had a temple and all of that, I kind of thought at least a little bit, I had some idea that I was at least on a recognizable path of some sort, but since getting brain damage, I've been relieved of that massive delusion. Even a hint of an idea of knowing what you're doing is just no longer possible. And in a way, it's kind of a dharmic blessing, I think.
Yeah.
But I hadn't recognized it until you just named it. So thank you very much.
I do think it really can be a blessing to not be very good at certain things. Because if we have incompetencies or weaknesses, then we're much more likely, or maybe, I don't know, maybe not, but the effect it has had for me anyway is to be a little more humble and a little bit more open, well, certainly open to other people's shortcomings and foibles. And I think that is a much better way to be.
Certainly conduces to compassion. If you can
Yes.
easily imagine making the exact same mistakes you see everyone making around you, and maybe yours might even be considerably worse. Easy to have compassion.
Yeah. 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 All right. All right, let's finish with our chanting and some bowing. Do you want to just do a little clunk across there? Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it.